Good afternoon and welcome to the Boise Metro Chamber's Metro Minute, your quick guide to business impact. My name is Tori Thomas, Community and Government Affairs Manager here at the Chamber, and your host for today's event. The Boise Metro Chamber is Idaho's only 5-star accredited chamber and represents nearly 2,000 members. We are only able to provide current events and educational content because of our members and their investment in our community. Before I introduce our speaker today, I want to thank Holly Troxel for their generous support. Please enjoy.
I'm Tom Mortel, co-managing partner of Holly Troxel. Our firm is proud to be the sponsor of the Boise Metro Chamber's Metro Minute. In the 6 communities we serve throughout Idaho and Eastern Washington, we have the pleasure of providing legal services to great companies, large and small. Similar to the Chamber, we represent companies from Main Street businesses to some of the largest corporations in our area. We appreciate the opportunity to advocate on their behalf as a part of the Chamber's advocacy program and to further the Chamber's efforts to advocate on behalf of its members. Welcome to the Metro Minute. Please enjoy today's presentation.
I also want to thank our episode sponsor for today, CompuNet. They are an Idaho company headquartered in a Meridian with 8 offices throughout the Pacific Northwest. Their mission is to be a growing tech leader and a strategic IT partner for their clients while cultivating an empowered workforce. Thank you, CompuNet, for your partnership and all you do for our state. Now, I'd like to welcome our guest for today, Alberto Gonzalez.
Hey,
hello, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'll read your bio and then we can jump into some questions.
Sounds great.
Gonzalez brings 30 years of management experience in both private and public sectors, including 15 years with the state of Idaho. Appointed by Governor Brad Little in 2022, he now serves as CIO and administrator for Idaho's Office of Information Technology Services. Previously, he led the DMV at the Idaho Transportation Department and held roles in the Department of Health and Welfare, focusing on modernization and service to Idahoans. Gonzalez also spent 14 years in leadership with a national communications company and studied organizational behavior at the University of San Francisco. Thank you for all you do for our state and for joining us for this conversation today. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, can we start with an overview of Idaho's cybersecurity landscape? It's definitely been a pretty hot topic the last few years, but I'm sure longer for you. Can you particularly focus on small, medium-sized businesses and the threats that they're impacted by?
Yeah, thanks so much, Tori. I also just want to take a brief moment because CompuNet is a huge partner to the state, and they actually participate in a lot of the security tools that we have. So I just want to thank Jay Ellis and his team. And prior to that, when I was on the Health Insurance Exchange, Tom Mortel actually represented us at Your Health Idaho. So it's so great to see these partners representing such an important topic like cybersecurity. So thank you for having me. As far as the landscape today, it was really interesting for me to come into this role, having been on the agency side and trying to really understand, what are the services that ITS, the Office of IT or Information Technology Services, provides. But what I found is that there's a core, really like a network surrounding every state agency. And it doesn't matter if you're executive branch or some other constitutional officer, everybody rides our core network. And what was really interesting is that at the core, we provide firewalls, we provide all sorts of security, email filtering. There's just so much on the core trying to protect all these threats that are coming at us on a regular basis. And I'll talk about volumes in a little bit. And then separately within each agency that are connecting to the core, we have to provide additional tools and guards around what cybersecurity challenges are. The most interesting part about all this is that no matter what you surround it with, no matter how strong the posture is you're trying to create, the biggest threat we continue to have is with social engineering. So this is the human. The human continues to be our biggest threat, only because, lately, especially as of last year, we've seen such a high volume of phishing related scams and mostly targeting financials within businesses, schools, government, and small and medium businesses like you were asking about. And most of the time, they're trying to get credentials from people that are within the agency, sort of confusing them that is this a real thing. But what we've been doing to reduce that, and what I think small businesses and medium businesses should be doing, is making sure that there's multi-factor authentication. In fact, we have a group here that spends the bulk of their time remediating a lot of these breaches that we have. Not breaches, but at least compromises for user access. And the ones we're not having to spend a lot of time with are those that have multi-factor authentication. And a lot of times, small business and medium-sized businesses, I don't think they care about multi-factor. So most of us that do banking, I do ICCU. If I'm banking with ICCU, and in order to get access to my information, they're multi-factoring me. They're making sure that I am who I say. They're sending me a text. Anything you can do to sort of secure the human is really good. Training for your employees is critical. I think we try to do that at least once a year, twice a year is really what we try to do. As annoying as it is, we require our folks to change their passwords at least 3 times a year. And of course, the folks that are giving access to systems, we make sure that they're limiting access, that everybody who's accessing systems of record or data, that we're really restricting who accesses the data. But that's actually the biggest threat that we have. And I think it translates not just to government, but it translates to small business and large, medium and large businesses as well.
Thank you for that answer. Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you chat a little bit about the primary initiatives and then the protections currently in place within the state government? I'm sure it's a little difficult when your biggest threat is humans. It's hard to really put a pin on that or figure out fully how to handle that.
No, I appreciate that, Tori. I think, honestly, we've had larger efforts going on right now. Right now, specifically, we have an initiative within the Governor's Office of IT that's focused on Operation Cyber Idaho. So many of your businesses, they're filing taxes with the tax commission. They're registering fleets, with the DMV. They're doing business with the entire state. So we have to make sure that we, as a state, but also the cities and counties that do business along us, that act as agents on our behalf, that they're also protected. So we've been doing this piece where we do a lot of assessments for all the agencies. We do assessments for some cities and counties and even tribes. And we try to make sure that we understand what does your cyber posture look like? Where do you have major vulnerabilities? And then how can we help you fix those? And that's been happening for 5 years. Actually started before I got here. We've tried to dial it up a little bit more the last couple of years, but that to me feels like it's one of those pieces where the partnership we have with the National Guard that helps us do a lot of these assessments, and then the remediation is really cool. One other thing we're doing that we're really excited about, we're offering up cities and counties, people in their areas, to become part of our internship and potentially just some training programs that go through workforce development or through the counties or higher education or even through the National Guard. And we try to train people so that if you're in Teton County or you're over in Boise County, doesn't matter where you're at, if there's somebody interested in cyber, we're willing to train them. They can help you get back on track. All that translates to cities and counties, because a lot of folks, even if they have a small IT shop within their small business, medium-sized business, or large business, they probably don't have a robust security team that can help them do that. We have been working with private business, St. Luke's. We just spent quite a bit of time with St. Luke's recently, just kind of sharing our best practices with their best practices. We feel like it's important that we play a role beyond government, that we are trying to give whatever we're able to leverage from Homeland Security or other places, that we pass that information on to our business community as well.
Awesome. That's great. Oh, and you can tell, obviously your guys' office has been doing all this amazing outreach. Our director of operations here, she has been leading the charge here at the chamber. And we are also supposed to be changing our passwords several times a year. And our cybersecurity company has been doing phishing, kind of test phishing stuff on us. And so we all kind of were joking, who's going to be the first one to fall? Who's going to fall for it? But it's really crazy to see how smart these hackers are, and how how easy it is to fall into one of those phishing attacks, or just anything that comes into play when you're in your office or even just in your business alone. So we appreciate the collaboration that you're trying to do with businesses. So speaking of that, you're obviously working with certain businesses to talk about cybersecurity resilience. How are you guys working with the companies to educate and train them to know what the best practices are?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, congrats to your agency for doing what they're doing, because in addition to the human, are you doing endpoint protection? Are you looking at ransomware protection and doing identity management? So anybody that does business with you online, identity management is also critical. So I'm so glad to hear that, business is just as far ahead, if not farther ahead, than government is in many cases. So congrats to you guys for doing that. As far as what we're trying to do, we have a new Chief Information Security Officer. His name is Jared Edgar. He comes to us from the National Guard. And one of the things he's found the biggest return on investment is attending as many conferences that we're allowed to come to. So we hold the digital summit every year, mostly targeted to small business and targeted to cities, counties, and other agencies. But the truth is, a lot of those folks have spouses and relatives that are all in the small business space. So some of it is organic, coming out of there. But we really are trying to grow. I just met, in fact, CompuNet is a sponsor of yours today. So I spent some time with them about a month ago, and we met with a lot of small businesses. In fact, we met with the likes of St. Luke's and Blue Cross, and I'm trying to remember some of the private sector folks that were in there that do, whether it's on the farming side or anywhere else. But what we try to do is share best practices. What are we doing? What tools are we using? What challenges are we having? And I think for us, it's a huge effort that we don't see ourselves as just government, but we have a voice inside of the private sector. We also met recently with like 7 other private sector companies. Not that long ago, it was hosted by a different agency, but what we try to do is just exchange ideas, challenges, and solutions, and it continues to be something for us. So we know you guys are a high target. We know that most places are looking at small businesses and medium-sized businesses. They're trying to do business email compromises. They're trying to really get to your financial folks, or sometimes your lower level folks that tend to sort of be fooled, meaning like your admin assistants or somebody that just trusts a lot of people. So we're trying to do as much awareness as we can. We are creating a website. We're also working with the Office of Emergency Management to make sure that we make some grants available related to anything that's on the cyber front, to make sure that we're all combating it, because it is intense how much is coming. And you would think Idaho, we're just a nice flyover state for a lot of folks. The millions of emails with malicious attachments to it, the number of times that brute force attempts are being had at the state, I can only imagine what like a Simplot or even a Blue Cross or a Micron is experiencing right now. So they're coming after us. It doesn't matter geographically where we're at. This is coming at us pretty hard and furious.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see how much is coming through the pipeline and all of that, and amazing to see the work that's being done, but also really scary to see all of these new trends or new ways that people are hacking. I know when I first started at the chamber, I would always get messages from our CEO asking me to go pick up gift cards. And at first I was like, oh, I mean, maybe he'd want me to do that. And I was like, that seems weird. And so we just all were going around. It was funny to see who ended up getting those emails. If you send a message to the CEO, that's usually where they would target your email. But thankfully we've gotten a lot of updated cybersecurity help these days, so hopefully we don't see as many more of those. So speaking of the trends and also technologies that are kind of at play, what are you seeing? Anything that will be coming up in the coming years? Anything that people should be keeping an eye out, or also any exciting technologies that you could see helping folks?
Well, I'm going to first talk about what's helping our criminals. So, because there's a lot of criminal syndicates that, a lot of like organized crime, they look at where is their best value? Is it human trafficking? Is it drugs? Is it this? Cyber has become very lucrative to these organizations because it's becoming easier and easier to look for those vulnerabilities. It's almost like there's a playbook for how these organized crime organizations can go after some small and medium-sized businesses and even some small cities and counties. So for me, it feels like there's a lot of folks they're building up their skill sets within the criminal syndicates to really go after folks. There's a lot of ROI for these organizations. They're acting like a business. It's almost disgusting how much, of a business opportunity they see it as. They're creating a lot, and it's putting us all at a lot of risk. I think the biggest trend that I'm concerned about, and I know the governor is concerned about, because I'm certain that we're going to be doing something about this, at least in terms of what it means for us. But artificial intelligence, you have no idea how easy it is now. What used to take, say, an individual to try to compromise somebody's credentials or to get into someone's account or somebody's network or break a firewall in the past was a very manual effort. Somebody behind the keyboard, potentially in a lot of the countries that are, we consider them as bad actors, like China, Russia, Iran, et cetera, North Korea, they would spend a lot of time behind the keyboard. And that's just the bad actors at the foreign level. On the criminal syndicate side, they're also trying to measure, does it make sense for them? So with AI, they're able to create these sort of, they're able to prompt artificial intelligence to go do those things that used to take them a long time to do behind the keyboard. Now they're able to do it like at 1,000 times faster. And so the artificial intelligence to me seems to be like yet another level of concern that we have to try to battle some of these brute force attempts. During the election recently, we had one of our counties that I think within 24 hours, they had 50,000 brute force attempts. That means somebody wrote a script, AI, and they were trying to get into the election information for that particular county. Obviously, we worked with OEM, the FBI, and everybody to make sure that we were combating those challenges. But the truth is, AI, as great as it is for all of us, from building efficiencies and creating those goofy images that we like to build off of it, or even videos, it's also building like a significant efficiency for these criminal syndicates that are trying to do bad against our state or small businesses or medium-sized and large businesses here in the state of Idaho. So for me, it's just stay informed on the threats and the practices, see what we're doing. I'm pretty sure the governor is going to be asking us specifically to do something related to AI to make sure that we're protecting business information and citizen information at whatever agency you work with. We support over 50 agencies today. That means you're probably doing business with the agencies that we provide services for. So we're doing everything we can to support them and to protect them.
That is crazy. I think there's so much emerging positively about AI and how much it will positively impact people. But then I think obviously the bad side of it is how easy it will become for hackers to just keep doing what they can and covering more ground. So when you talk about AI and is it possible for them to get into, so like we use Microsoft and we're hoping to maybe start using the Copilot that they have. So it'll be a private source of AI. Is there a way that people are hacking into users of AI, or are they just using AI to get their jobs done?
I love that you're like so tech savvy, Tori. It feels like you've been doing your homework too. So that's a really good point. It's interesting because we're in the middle of doing a survey right now, and the survey ends today at 5 o'clock. So we asked a lot of our employees in Idaho, what do you know about AI? Are you using AI? Do you plan on using AI? What challenges, what opportunities, blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to collect data from the state workforce, which is 25,000, strong. So we try to get a sense of what they're doing. But the truth is we have potentially 40 to 50% of our workforce that leverages it to build efficiencies. If they're improving their emails or looking at assessing a summary of things, or there's so many people using it, but nobody's telling them. There's no governance telling them like, hey, when you do this thing, don't include our organizational information. Do not include PII, HIPAA, or anything that's identifiable to anybody. And also, if you're doing something that's creating content for you, do you realize that there could potentially be copyright infringement issues or legal issues for the agency if you plan on using that stuff. So Copilot is going to be a trusted partner for the state. We are a Microsoft shop, but Gemini is not too bad. OpenAI is offering it. But I think you're already onto something that I think will be an outcome of this committee that we hope to be part of. And that's that you create agency or state-based or business-based, like a very closed version of an AI, or they call them large language models. But so that if you're like, let's say you're Simplot, and I'm trying to use Idaho names here, but if you're Simplot, or even if you're ACHD, right? Like you're an agency that's trying to leverage AI, leverage it within your own data, control the data space, leverage all the knowledge and all the amazing things that AI does, but keep your data within a container. Make sure the data doesn't leave where you're at, because make the tool available, but protect the tool itself. Make sure the data is secured, because the last thing you don't want is for like an ICCU or a Pioneer credit for their information to get out there, like, oh, we were using AI and we released a bunch of account information. You got to protect the data. And so for me, it all starts with what you kind of were talking about earlier, which is like, does Copilot offer something that just contains it to the agency or to a business? Yes, a lot of businesses are offering for you to have your own LLM, but you leverage the power of artificial intelligence outside of that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think I use AI to ask this email to maybe take away more or less of the exclamation points, or how to sound nicer in an email. I can't imagine being a higher tech or like a financial advisor or ICCU, perfect example of, putting this data in there and making sure it stays safe as well. So yeah, so many exciting trends, but also, yeah, I think there's obviously a negative side to it. And then, so you've obviously shared a lot of great information with us today, and we really appreciate it. Do you have any maybe advice for small businesses in general, or even just individuals in Idaho, that maybe if they have limited resources, what they can do to keep an eye out for cyber threats, or any recommendation for them?
No, I appreciate the question. So I'm going to answer it sort of in a state agency director mindset, just ahead of JFAC in the fall, but also for the small and medium-sized businesses. But first of all, if there's one area you don't want to go cheap in, it's your cybersecurity. Like, it's worth the investment. On the other side, if you don't invest in this, it's really going to hurt you on the backside. If you look at any ransomware example, and you can look at MGM compared to what Caesars did or what the protections they had, there's a lot of lessons to be learned out there. Do not go cheap. Do not skimp on your cybersecurity front. But there's some really basic things that can be done. Really basic things. I think multi-factor authentication already protects you from so much. That's not that expensive. Make sure that everybody has it. If everyone's logging in and there's no checks or balances around that, like, make sure you do multi-factor authentication. Also, make sure that whatever systems have access to your system of record or data, especially sensitive data, make sure you have really clear controls around whose role should be accessing that information. And ultimately, make sure your network is secure and that you have a good firewall in place. I would say those are some like low-hanging fruit that you don't need some consultant to come in and tell you that. Those are some basic things that your IT provider or your sponsor like CompuNet could do it. But I think it's a lot of things that are really basic that I think could save a lot of people from a lot of hardship downstream. And education. People have to continue to hear it. And you gotta, even when you shame them into clicking that, oh, our company's offering free Prime for the next year from Amazon, and they click on it realizing, oh, that was a phishing attempt. So, education and examples like that are really good, because the human is your biggest threat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. We appreciate the work that you do in our state, trying to keep us safe. And hopefully people will be able to take this advice and make sure all of their businesses are safe. So we appreciate you. Thank you for chatting with us.
Well, thank you, Tori, and welcome to make my contact information available to your members, and appreciate the opportunity to share what the state is doing. So thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you to our viewers and our listeners today. Thank you to our sponsor, Holly Troxel, our episode sponsor, CompuNet, as well as our media partners, Idaho Ed News, Idaho Press, and Idaho Capital Sun. Next week's Metro Minute, we will be joined by Meridian's Mayor, Robert Simonson. So please tune in for that and enjoy your day. Thanks for watching.